It's on page 64, right before you do the inventory process. If you're not, don't worry about it. If you're not in AA, it doesn't matter. But the inventory process. And it says being convinced. So that's a present tense verb. It's not like you were convinced and you will be convinced, but being convinced, yeah. Like you're in that sense of convincing now. It's different. It isn't, because a lot of people were convinced, you know, but they're not convinced now, and they think, they're hoping they will be convinced, but it's always reinforcing a sense that they're not convinced now. So it says being convinced, yeah. So that self, manifested in various ways, is what has defeated us. So if you listen to the statement, I don't see how you can see it, how you can miss it, really. So being convinced, so I'm in the act of being convinced. I'm going to wait for these gals to come. Yes. I'm just going to start just doing a little recovery thing. You want to put it on? Is it on? All right. So being convinced, which is a present tense verb, yeah. So that way you're clear on step 1 and 2, being convinced that you're not managerial quality, let's say, yeah, or something. And you're powerless over alcohol and drugs and whatever else you want to add on to that, yeah? So the powerlessness is a certain state you're in, and it could be demonstrated in certain topics, but it's potentially there for almost any topic. Powerless over shopping, powerless over this, powerless over that, yeah? So there's a sense of powerlessness that you seemingly are in. Seemingly is the key. So being convinced that self manifested in various ways. So something is going to manifest or appear, yeah, in various ways. You're not going to see it, but you can see it through its manifestations, yeah? So self is going to manifest in various ways, and those various ways is going to defeat us in this life, yeah? So it's very clear self is one thing, let's call it, and then there's us as another thing, yeah? So, like a foreign installment is manifesting through us somehow. Somehow it's found permission to manifest through us, and in those manifestations it's defeating us, yeah? And now we're going to look at some of its, meaning self's, common manifestations. Some of the basic ones, how it shows up in one's life. And if you agree or disagree, that doesn't matter, but just do it silently for right now, yeah? So when we get to questions, you can ask me questions after that. So, because I'm not trying to convince anyone. I'm just sharing what's been revealed or is being revealed right now to me. Not to me, but through. So, being convinced that self manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. All right, so we're the us, let's say, yeah? And then there's something, maybe it's a mental activity, maybe it's a possession, maybe it's a parasitical movement. You can call it anything else, but hopefully other would work, you know? If you can see it as other, that's a big leg up, yeah? So being convinced that self manifests in various ways, what has defeated us. Then it says, now if you are, we'll look at some of its common manifestations in recovery. And in recovery, the 4th step is like an inventory to see how self has defeated you in one's life, basically. Yeah, other people take it in a different way, but this is how I see it. So this foreign installment has been manifesting through me, and then with that carte blanche to show up into my life through me, it's been defeating me. Yeah? So some of its common manifestations are resentments, fear, and fear, I like the acronym of false evidences appearing real, because constantly that's what's happening with people. The thought system is presenting a narrative, a false narrative, and then suddenly, if you believe it, it appears real to you, and then there'll be a reaction, hopefully not an action, but mostly it will cause an action, and you will react to what's happening from that false evidence. So people don't understand, why the fuck are you flipping out? Because they don't see it, but you are seeing something, yes? So, and then there's harm done to others in the pursuit of what you want. So we look at our sexual behavior, because usually there's strong desires there. Yeah, so you want something, and then you can see when this process, this parasitical movement wants something, that topic you're going to find all of its manifestations around. Yeah. So if it's concerned about material security, that's where a lot of your fears and resentments will be. It's like it will shit where it is, yeah? And then you can see the shit and go, wow, there's self. Instead of calling it your fucking shit all day, you'd finally see it as something other than you, and that's the freedom from the bondage of self. The bondage of self is an activity. It's happening right now. The mental state is constantly presupposing you're a thing, you know, this little action figure. And if you're a thing, then you can't be spirit, in a sense. You can't be no thing as a thing. That's the dilemma with spiritual seeking. People want to be a no thing as a thing. There's a huge disadvantage to that situation, because you're going to try to keep being a no thing as a thing. So you can convince yourself as a thing that you've had a lot of experiences of no thing, but it hasn't changed the thing basically at all. It's actually reinforced the thing. Now it's a spiritual thing, which is really dangerous. Because at these meetings, there's no thing called an intervention. No one's going to come up and go, all right, you've had enough, miss. You're going to have 8 satsang this week. And you're going to go into a 28-day program. No retreats, no Adyashanti videos. And you're just going to go to Kmart every day. You know what I mean? An ordinary, not fucking lattes, but you're going to go to Denny's and get coffee there. Just see what it feels like to be totally ordinary. That would be a great retreat, really. You'd be screaming out of Walmart after about 5 days. Yeah, so. So this is humbly, just a humble invitation. If you keep calling, all right, so there's the statement. So now, when a resentment comes through, or you see something as a threat, which it isn't, yeah? You'll usually find what happens is there's a narrative that it's you that has that resentment, yeah? And you that has the fear, and you who acted out, let's say inappropriately in the pursuit of what it wanted, yeah? But if you follow the statement, that's actually an expression of self manifesting in life through you, yeah? Then why are you calling it yours? Why are you calling foreign installments expressions your expressions? Wouldn't that be the act of being identified as something that you're not? Yeah? There isn't an identification as something that you're not, right? There's an act of being identified as something that you're not, yeah? You, what you are, cannot identify with what it's not, yeah? But it can think it's that, yeah? So not think, but the reality. How could false evidence appear real unless it appeared real to what's real? How could something that's not true appear to be true to you? You must be the reality, obviously, yeah? So when you see false evidence and you believe it to be true, it's basically true to you, because you're the reality. So we're, like it says in the Course in Miracles, Lesson 2, you and I are giving everything all the meaning it has. That isn't a stagnant past event. It's an activity right now, yeah? It isn't like, oh, 5 years ago, I gave everything all the meaning it has, and that has stabilized, and I constantly see that exactly like I saw it 8 years ago. It's an activity, yeah? We're in an activity called dreaming, and in the dreaming, we are the conduit for meaning to be given to everything else, yeah? And there's been a meaning given to this, that it's us. See, that's the dilemma. So when a foreign installment expresses through us, the mental state claims those expressions and calls them yours. How the hell are you going to get out of self as a self? How can you escape that which you're identified as? You can only escape that which you think you're in as that which you're identified as. That means self can't get out of self. You're attempting to escape self as a self, where the escape is seeing that nothing freaking ever happened, and that your escape isn't an activity, yeah? It's a fact. In other words, your escape was prior to any being in and out, yeah? That's the only thing that will work. If any solution gets engaged in time, it can appear or not to appear, based on you, basically, yeah? But in timelessness, it's prior to all this insane possibilities our head is entertaining, which is, I'm really fucked today. It's amazing that at 9:05 you can be in heaven, and 9:07 you're in hell. You gotta think there's something suspicious about that incredible change so quickly, yeah? But what was it that was thinking it was in heaven, and what was it that's feeling it's in hell is the same. It's like if you found yourself in a lot of fires, maybe you're the fire starter. Just humbly, maybe the fire starts when you think you're there. And then you want to put it out, but you're already always potentially like a lit match, walking around. Why do I have so many resentments? You don't have resentments. They have you. You don't have fear. The fear has you, in a sense. So in recovery humbly, I don't see how you can read it any other way. That what we're doing in an inventory process is looking at how self has defeated us. We're not looking about our resentments. That's the act of being identified as it, yes? It's just how can you possibly have a radical freedom from it as it? Oh, Billy Idol, dancing with himself. Yeah, you see it? Just humbly to recovery. If you see it as something other than you, this is what happened. It was about 9 years into recovery. I was reading that chapter, How It Works, and I came across this statement, and I saw it in a new light. I had never seen it before, and I saw it as a description as a parasitical movement who had a host, seemingly, and was defeating that host by manifesting its expressions through the host, and all the while the host kept calling them their expressions. So if, let's say, a parasite landed and you could see it, and it had like 40 teeth, and it landed on you, you would knock it off in a split second, yes? 500 times you would knock it off. But see, this parasitical movement has the greatest strategy. It convinces the host that it's the host. So now, every topic that you get engaged with in your life, it enters, and when it enters, you call it me. You see it in recovery. People are sober, and then they drink, and they look like they've been possessed again. Their eyes change, their facial structure change, they get a darker you. Something moved into the driver's seat. They're not there. They never were there as a self. There's only the act of being identified as a self. There's no self to be identified as. There's the act of being identified as a self. There is no self to be identified as. We're thinking an activity is already a fact. And now we're trying to get out of self as self, but it's only an activity, and we bring it into the sense of being a fact. We believe it, and therefore it seems to be so, as Jesus supposedly says, as you believe, so it is. For a moment, it can seemingly be that way. For every fucking moment. What's the difference of being screwed and seemingly screwed? Not much. But the seemingly screwed, there's a solution to it. It only appears to be true to you. Just like it says in our book in the foreword. I want to go off on recovery. It's my tribe, you know. It says in the foreword, we are 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Seemingly means it appears to be true or false to you. That is exactly what's happening here. Everything all day is seemingly appearing to be true or false to us. That's what's going on. Yeah. So the mental process is constantly in the act of being identified as a self, because it cannot be a self. It cannot produce the effect it wants to, but it can convince us to produce the effects. Yeah? So when you believe you're that, you're going to have, like they say in the Course in Miracles, you're going to have uncaused effects. In other words, the dreaming are going to produce effects, but they're uncaused because nothing ever happened, but it seems to be happening. And when someone's house is on fire, you can't tell them there is no house and there's no fire. You got to show them where the pail of water is, and maybe when that fire's out, you can go, hey, you know, every fire you've ever been in, you've been there. Yeah? And you're trying to get out of fire as the fire started. Don't you see the impotence of that? So as the sense of non-duality, or the sense of, like the Course in Miracles, of an atonement, is that there's a seeing that nothing ever happened, that everything is always happening, but nothing ever came to pass because you're all there is. You, as mind, as big a mind, we're all there is. We're reality, dreaming. If you believe that you're the observer of the dream, as if you're not wet and you're looking at the river, you're totally drenched. This is never not in the dreaming. This isn't going, oh, I have reached a high perch and I am now going to review everyone in the dreaming. No, that's the dreaming. This never escapes the content, ever, ever. We're always in, seemingly, because we've never been in. Yeah? What we are is context. What we are is behind the camera. What we appear to be is in front of the camera. What's appearing to be in front of the camera is never going to get behind the camera as what's appearing to be in front of the camera. When it realizes it's not that, it gets a sense immediately it's behind the camera. And when it gets the sense immediately that it's behind the camera, it tells itself it's always been that way. That there was never me in front of the camera. Ever. It wasn't like suddenly that got vanquished and I'm now behind. No, the hit of behind the camera reveals what's ever happening in front of the camera has never really fucking happened. Without you, it's not happening. That's the beauty. The beauty is the freedom isn't a reaction to a bondage. It's prior to it all. It's not a freedom with an opposite. It's an untouched state that's never been touched. Just like the sky. Millions of clouds have appeared in the sky. Not once did the sky take itself to be, it never turned into a cloud, ever. It never got ripped open by the July 4th explosions. It never got wet when it's been raining. The bird shits, it doesn't land on the sky. This is like our mind. This is our inherent condition. All this is streaming across, yeah? Like a giant, who goes to a movie and stops and claps for the screen? There you go. But the whole point is, without the screen, there's no movie. Without us, there's no movie, yeah? It's all streaming across, yet we have never came and we have never went. That's why we're not noticing it. Just like a fish probably doesn't know it's wet all the time, because it's always been wet. It would have to have an experience of not being wet to realize what wetness was like. It's sort of like gravity. There's a Starbucks right there. Not one person who's visited any freaking cafe today has complained about the effects of gravity today. They blamed it on a hill, or the fucking this or that, yeah? Those stairs are driving me crazy. But it's gravity, yeah? And you can write books on gravity and become a circuit speaker on gravity and talk, and I know everything fucking about gravity. But all you need to know is just go into an anti-gravity chamber, and that's all you need to know about gravity. You'll know it by its absence, yes? You'll have a sense of what gravity was like when you're relieved of it. The solution will inform you of the problem. You cannot know the solution from the problem. The solution will inform you what the problem is, and I'm humbly telling you, it's just an activity. It's just an activity. The mental state is offering you, and it's, look at what happened when we were young. Your senses were alive, right? Felt things, just smelled, touched everything, and then over time it became dominated up here, hasn't it? There isn't any here. But there was a day, I remember I'd be running around naked and everything when I was young, and then one day something occurred where I had a thought about what I was doing. And from then on, there was never an action that wasn't accompanied by thought. What the fuck happened? A little passenger jumped on and started narrating the story of Paul. And its seeming presence in the car made the driver quite agitated. So thoughts are probably the main drive of the selfing, because all the thoughts are usually concerning you, or indirectly, the you that you're not. And they can't even, they're only happening now, but they're very rarely about now. They're about yesterday and tomorrow. So they produce an imaginary stage, and if you believe the play, it can produce effects here. So last week can dominate your day-to-day. And next week can have you totally fucking frozen today. What's not happening can eclipse, seemingly, what's happening. And if it keeps on doing it, you'll take that as what's happening. Your whole life will be replaced by an interpretation. And you'll be wondering, why the fuck don't I feel great? Why the fuck don't I feel satisfied? How can you? Because there's tons of stories when you once were satisfied and they never compare to the satisfaction you think you're in, or the future fear of you're never going to be satisfied. I'm telling you, man, I swear, I get calls. I really want to be a psychiatrist that specializes in what's not happening. I could work one day and be fucking rich the rest of my life. I'd have 60 people in one day. They all would come in thinking they were going to get an hour session, and they'd start bitching about what's not happening. I'd say, that's not happening. See you next week, Paul. What? Yeah, go on, let's go, bring the next person. And I could quit by 12. Because really, truly, that's the only solution to what's not happening. If you try to apply a solution to it, that's part of the problem. You're trying to make something unreal, makes it real, seemingly. Yes, we don't realize our role here. We're dreaming. We are the act of dreaming right now. We're not a little stick figure that's being imposed by all this shit. We're totally in cahoots with the whole event. And you sooner or later are gonna run out of fucking gathering some things and finally have them all tabulate into nothing. And then you'll just land in nothing and you realize that's everything. We're so, aren't you sick and tired of trying to be a consumer of fucking spirituality? Where's this touchstone? How can you think, how can you see if something's true or not if you don't fucking know it in yourself? I mean, right now, are you making any effort to see? Did you have to gird your loins this morning and seeing and hearing and feeling? I think I got 3 of them down. The other 2, I don't know. All right, I'm here seeing. I'm hearing, I'm going to hear the message. That's not hearing the message. The best way to hear the message is to be disinterested in a sense. Just sit here and let it come in. And don't let that little catcher's mitt of the mental state catch it, because once it says it's you hearing the message is neutered. It's like a stillborn, it's dead. Yeah? And then you go through 9 months of work and practicing. Oh, I'm finally and then as soon as you capture it, it's dead again. And it's not concentration, it's not focus, it's dispersion, yeah? It's unfocused. You see more when you're not looking than you'll ever see looking. Hear it, let it do its thing. You've been served the spiritual subpoena. If you get to the exact nature of the wrong, you're there. You can't escape your role here. So thoughts. How the hell do the thoughts? All right, so I'm going to go this way. Ramana Maharshi, a great master, I believe, said in a lot of his, what people wrote about him, this statement always comes up, which is this presupposing of a non-existent thing that wants to get salvation for the non-existent thing. Do you need to hear any more? Really? I mean, if the shoe fits, wear it, yes? Oh, well, wait a minute. It sounds like my life. A non-existent thing was taken to be me, and then that me's been searching for salvation. Not from the non-existent thing, because that's already in place. There's already salvation from the non-existent thing, because it never existed. So the salvation is so completely so right now, we're not noticing it. We want it to be so, and we have stories when it was once so, but we're missing the so-ness of it. It's escaping our attention because our interest and attention has been enslaved to the mental process, and it constantly sends it to this and that all day. It disperses our ability to be present, seemingly, by being totally occupied by yesterday and tomorrow. And so the insane obviousness of what is becomes fucking like, like an esoteric, cryptic fucking thing. It isn't. It's ordinary dog shit awareness. You're awake, and you can seem not to be awake to that fact, but it doesn't change the fact, or you can seem to be awake to that fact. One seemingly produces a heaviness, the other produces a lightness. Yeah? But the beautiful news is the awakeness is so. It's completely so. It has nothing to do with you making it so. That's the beautiful news. Because what will truly work and constantly work is something that does not have you in the equation. When you're totally taken out of it, it becomes a fact. Never not been a fact, never will not be a fact, never was not a fact. Yeah? So all the shenanigans going on and all the freaking things, when you do your mental triple flip, you'll land on the same fucking screen, the same trampoline that has never not been there. And the obviousness will hit you, and you'll stop looking for what you are. You'll stop looking for what you are as an object or at a rival point. You'll see exactly what St. Francis meant by what's looking is what you're looking for. Right? It doesn't say what's looking and then 30 pages of requirements for you to suddenly become what you're looking for, because obviously you're not what you're looking for, or you wouldn't be doing all this fucking seeking all day. Yeah? But suddenly, what's looking, no, it doesn't. It says what's looking is what you're looking for. What? Yeah. Like the immediacy of it escapes us, because all we're looking to find shit through is time. We want to try to find in time the timelessness. By searching for ourselves in time, we disguise the timelessness of what we are. So this is what happens, humbly once again. The mental state implies that something that comes after is before. So that's why he uses the word presupposing. Supposing, assuming is you just believe in something. You have no evidence. You just assume it's so. Yeah? But this one is a pre-assumption. So when the mental state is in the act of being identified, which is what it's doing right now, the act, it's in an act of being identified, in that action, it's implying that you were there, you, as the self, was there before it. So when you hear this message, you'll call me up and go, oh, I've been selfing all day. That's not the selfing. The feeling of being the one who's been selfing all day is the selfing. And then, oh, the selfing has been driving me crazy. That's not the selfing. It's the one who's being driven crazy. That's the selfing. The feeling of being the one. The feeling of being the one that appears in the mental process after, but now is suddenly implied to be before. So now you and I live all day thinking we're the one who's conscious. Just somebody, listen to the language. You know, my knee went out surfing a few years ago. When I would meet people, they go, hey, Paul, what happened? I hurt my knee. Like I went out there with a hammer and fucking hit it. Boom. I didn't hurt my knee. I had no idea. I had no intention of hurting my knee. The knee went out. I noticed it. I get out of the water, and then now, the next few months, every story, when I meet people, I hurt my knee, 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 and then it gets better. And then it says, you know, it was so great, my life, just until the moment I hurt my knee. It was so fucking wonderful, January 5th. The surf was great. But I hurt my knee. Now it explains why life isn't so wonderful, because I hurt my knee. You don't see it? Wait. Listen to the language, Italian, whatever language. English, I don't know the other languages, French or Italian. But I damn well know the English language. And the English language, the way it's being used, constantly implies we have a lot to do with shit we have nothing to do with. It does. It's constantly assuming. It's like the perfect trampoline where the presupposing goes bang, and then you're the doer. I hurt my knee. I healed my knee. You know what I mean? It's insane. It's like living with a hypnotist all day, just constantly talking to you as if you're the doer. So what happens then? Maybe you go to a meeting and they say you're not the doer. So you go home and chant, I'm not the doer, I'm not the doer, but isn't that the doer? You can't get out. It's like in recovery we say, quit playing God. It's a major, incredible statement. To me, it's the biggest, it's the unspoken step of the whole program. All right, so quit playing God. Okay, so now that which is playing God goes, I got to quit playing God. Isn't that playing God? And how would it end? Oh, I'm playing. It would just go on and on and on. That's what it does. It makes up an imaginary condition and then tries to get out of it, and that's the producer of time. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, you don't see. It's like a slug. The mental process is like a slug, and you know the little slime tail it leaves? That's time. The mental process claims, and then it goes, shh, and then it leaves this fucking mark. And you, oh yeah, I was there, and oh, this is when a big moment happened to the slug, like, and I'm hoping to go there. It's like a big fucking slimy little thing left, a trap. We dreaming timing. Time is of us, yeah? We're dreaming it. Without the connection, without the identification, yes, there would be no time. Self and time are synonymous. Without time, there would be no sense of self, because you have to be remembered. And how can you be remembered? If something isn't here, it has to be remembered, yeah, to be here, doesn't it? So the mental process is constantly remembering you there, because the thought system pictures you as a body. And when you're just absorbed in thoughts about you in the past, you're remembering you as a body now. And when you're worrying about what's going to happen to you in the future, you're worrying about you as a body now. They're both remembering, because that which isn't so has to appear to be so. It has to be remembered. That's what the whole event here is. We're living a life being remembered as a self. Has it changed fucking anything? No. The screen never got wet with all the fucking melodrama movies. It never got blown up by, you know, war movies. It's just exactly a fucking wide open, spacious, untouchable, brilliant, seamless, no place to enter, no place to exit, always available at all times, right where you are, with no requirement necessary other than the ones you make up, really. You are so available, you don't even notice it. You wish it was available, but it's so available, you'll miss it, yeah? So there was a great master, Huang Po, my favorite one. He goes, you can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Can't use light to seek light. Can't use big M mind to seek mind. Now, why is that? Yeah. I mean, you can use the Buddha to seek anything else, you know? Getting a good latte, doing that, doing this, getting maybe a date, something, a non-duality, match.com, something like that. There are no matches there. But, you know, the Buddha could seek a lot of shit and get it, you know? But he cannot use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. That's the only thing that's out of bounds. Anything else, it could use the Buddha to know the universe, it could do anything. But it cannot use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. Why do you believe a master would say this? To torture us? Or to inform us that maybe we are the Buddha in a seeming activity of looking for the Buddha? To save us a lot of time so that we could see Jesus or St. Francis as a backup. What's looking? The Buddha is what you, the Buddha, is looking for. Now, if the Buddha is what you as the Buddha is looking for, wouldn't that just immediately cut out the looking for? It would just be being the Buddha. Yeah? So you cannot use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. You can use it to become a mathematician, seemingly. You can use it for tons of things, sewing and everything. But you cannot apply what you apply to everything else to what you are. You cannot look for what you are. You'll be defeated at every turn. Yeah? But by seeing what you're not, that's it. By seeing what you're not, it immediately dawns on you that you're the seeing of what you're not. You don't pivot from seeing what you're not and start looking for what you are again. Yeah? There's no pivot. There's just seeing what you're not, bingo, and then there's an obviousness. I am that. I am the seeing right now. The seeing that never started and never will end, has never lit upon any object ever. It's just infinitely then you get a sense of life as a verb instead of a world of noun and verbs. You'll get a sense that everything is verbing. Yeah? And you can't like go to the Colorado River and get a glass of water of it and say you have the Colorado River, because when you have it in the glass and you think you know the river, you've lost its essence, which is the rivering. Yes? Why would you want to know what you are when you're being what you are? And that if you are that, then the knowing would be a disservice. The studying, trying to study what you are, would be a disservice. Like Ramana Maharshi says, you cannot investigate Atman, meaning everything. You can investigate non-self. That's what you can investigate. There are no non-duality teachers, there are duality teachers. You cannot teach non-duality, you can teach about duality with the hopes that you'll see it And you'll see through it, and that's a hit of what is always available at all times, which is non-duality. Yes? Not two. Simply not. There's not a thinker and a thought. The idea of being a thinker is a thought. There's all feelings. The feeling of being the feeler is a feeling. They're all feelings. There is no point where there's a feeler of it. There's no point where there's a thinker of it. There's no point where there's a doer of it. There's just doing, thinking, feeling, perceiving. It's always an active event. Always an active event. There's not one point where it stops and you become the seer, and you become the feeler, and you become the doer. Not one. Not one point does that ever happen. But the mental process, its processing, its verbing, is being used to imply that you're a noun. It's trying to convince you that you're a someone, that you were a someone before, you're a someone now, and you're definitely going to be a someone later. And you better be fucking worried about it. That's it, eh? I rest my case. Any questions? No? All right, well, you want to pass the basket? Here, it's here. And we have books and shirts and everything here. So I gotta support my lavish lifestyle. A latte. Well, we haven't got the machine yet here. If I have to, I will. For sure. I'll be a barista. So here are the books. If anyone hasn't seen the new one, we got a new one. On the 12 steps. Sort of.
Oh.
It's a little bit of a rest.
Hey,
Under arrest.
Oh,
It's a good book. I got it. I ordered it.
Yeah. You enjoying it? Good. Good. Thank you. I'll give you the money later. So yeah, I have them up here. This one's more. This is non-linear. It's just that, and this one's more of a trying to be of help. Yes. Yeah, yeah. So when we're done, we'll.
Oh, we're not done yet? No. Sorry.
What's it called?
Enough?
Yeah, shut it now. Yeah.